Back in November, I uploaded a video detailing Pokemon, moves, and abilities that were not currently obtainable in any games on the Switch at the time. I made that video in light of the possibility that Pokemon Bank sometime in the near future could go offline, and what that entails for completionists such as myself. Currently, Bank is still usable on any 3DS that has it downloaded, and transfers to Pokemon Home can be carried out at any time. However, official Pokemon sources have teased the idea that this probably won't last forever, and we should start preparing for it to eventually shut down. I wanted to give people as much time as possible to prepare and gather what they needed, so the last video I made on this subject was released before the Indigo Disc DLC was available for download. Now that the Indigo Disc is out and we have a pretty clear idea of all the content available, this video will serve as an updated list of things still stuck behind Bank, as well as make corrections to some mistakes I made and include things I happened to miss in my research the first time. Again, I'm going to lead off with a few disclaimers, starting with Pokemon Go. Last time, I made the decision to ignore Pokemon Go, and understandably, a lot of people didn't really agree with this notion. So I went ahead and incorporated talking points about Pokemon Go wherever it was applicable. Thank you to the many helpful commenters that pointed out to me where Go could be used to substitute in for the mainline games. The second disclaimer is that I should mention that since the eShop is no longer functional, the only way to download Pokemon Bank, PokeTransporter, and the Virtual Console games, if you don't already have them, is going to be through a modded 3DS running custom firmware. I know not everyone is comfortable doing this kind of thing, but just know that in the year 2024, it is still technically possible to get these applications on your 3DS, but again, that decision is totally up to you. And finally, this video covers everything that you cannot currently get in any Switch games. I got quite a few comments talking about previous distributions on the Switch, so yes, while Pokemon like Victini and Marshadow were once available in Sword and Shield, I'm still going to include them in this video, as if you're someone who wants to hack in old events, it's much easier to do so on the 3DS. With that done, let's start again with the Pokemon species not currently obtainable on the Switch. With Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, and Legends Arceus, almost all Pokemon Gens 1 through 4 are obtainable on the Switch, with the exception of Celebi and Deoxys. However, there is another special case Pokemon from BDSP, and that is Spinda. Due to a bug, Spinda cannot be deposited into Home if it originates from these games. Additionally, it cannot be sent into Home from Pokemon Go either, meaning the only way to register Spinda in your Home Pokédex is through the use of Bank. I got a ton of comments reminding me that I had missed this, so thanks to everyone who commented about Spinda, and special thanks to Little Defender 3, GoobBlue14, and Theophile G, who were the first to catch this error. Moving on, Celebi can be caught normally in the Pokemon Crystal Virtual Console on the 3DS. Where it can then be brought into Bank with the use of the PokeTransporter. However, utilizing the coin case glitch, Celebi can also be obtained in the Gold and Silver Virtual Console releases. I won't go in depth on this, but I will put a link in the description to a video by PokeTips on the coin case glitch, and thank you to Rose Supreme for making me aware of this glitch and PokeTips' video on it. Celebi is also available in Pokemon Go through special research accessible at any time. Deoxys is most readily available in the Delta episode at the end of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Keep in mind that Deoxys has 4 different boxable forms, so you'll need 4 Deoxys in total to complete a living form dex. His forms can be changed in BDSP though, so don't worry about having to collect all the forms before transferring from Bank to Home. In Pokemon Go, Deoxys is available during recurring raid events, though these only last for a limited time. If you would prefer to use this method, keep an eye out for when the next raids become available. Moving on to Generation 5, there are 10 Pokemon that are still not currently obtainable in any Switch games. Patrat, Watchog, all of the Elemental Monkeys, Victini, and Genesect. Patrat is easily caught on some of the first routes available in any Gen 5 game, while Watchog can be caught on a variety of routes throughout the Unova region, or it can be evolved from Patrat at level 20. Alternatively, Watchog can be caught in X and Y on Route 15. It has a 10% encounter rate in the grass and a 30% encounter rate in the red flowers. Patrat isn't available in the wild in X and Y, so in these games you'll have to breed for one at the daycare. Patrat and Watchog are also freely available in Pokemon Go, but X and Y were the last mainline games where Watchog was catchable in the wild, so unfortunately that's where your options end. This also applies to all of the Elemental Monkeys. In Black and White 1, a monkey is gifted to you in the Dream Yard before the first gym. What monkey you get depends on which starter you chose. In all Gen 5 games though, you can also find the monkeys in Rustling Grass in the Pinwheel Forest and the Lost Lorn Forest. They all have an equal 10% chance of appearing through this method. In X and Y, all 3 monkeys can be found in the Santaloon Forest early on in the game. Here, they also all have a 10% encounter rate in the grass. X and Y also has a stone shop in Lumio City that sells the 3 stones you need to evolve them in infinite supply. In the Gen 5 games, you'll have to do a little extra work to find all the stones you need. The monkeys are available in Pokemon Go, though by default default, they are locked to certain regions. There are events every so often that will allow you to catch Pokemon exclusive to certain regions all over the world, so you may want to look out for those in the future. Next up are the Gen 5 Mythicals. Since Meloetta got a repeatable capture method in the Indigo disc, that leaves behind just Victini and Genesect. These two are still obtainable at this moment without hacking through the DNS Exploit, a trick where if you manually input specific Wi-Fi settings onto your system, you can connect to custom servers that host the Gen 4 and 5 distribution events. In the description, I'll put links to a Reddit thread and a video that go into greater detail. In short, through this exploit, you can get Victini with any copy of Black or White 1, and Genesect with any copy of Black or White 2. It's also worth mentioning that in Black and White 2, you can receive Deoxys through this exploit if you want to go that route for a living form dex rather than playing through Auras multiple times. Victini is also available through special research in Pokemon Go at any time, while Genesect is available through raids, though like Deoxys, these raids are time sensitive. For Generation 6, there are 5 Pokemon not currently obtainable on the Switch: Furfrou, Pokeball Pattern Vivillon, Diancie, Hoopa, and Volcanion. Furfrou can be found in X and Y on Route 5. It has a 20% encounter rate in the grass and a 10% encounter rate in the purple flowers. In Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, Furfrou can be found earliest on Route 2 in the grass patches closest to the southern exit of the route. Here it has a 10% encounter rate. Furfrou is also available in Go. This is also the only game that Furfrou will keep its trim when transferred out of. When any Furfrou is deposited into a box in a mainline game, it instantly reverts back to its default form. Now as for those 4 event Pokemon, unfortunately there are no currently known exploits for obtaining these 4 in the mainline games. The only way to get them as of right now is through a modified 3DS that can inject the Pokemon or the events themselves into your save file. Diancie was available in Pokemon Go through a paid event in the past, but as of right now appears to be unavailable. Hoopa was also available in Go at one point through special research. You may want to check if you have this limited time research sitting around in your game. Pokeball Pattern Vivillon and Volcanion have not appeared in Go yet. Moving on to Generation 7, there are now just 5 Pokemon you'll want to consider grabbing: Magearna, Marshadow, Zeraora, Partner Cat Pikachu, and Battle Bond Greninja. Starting with Magearna and Partner Cat Pikachu, these two are obtained through scanning QR codes with the in-game camera app. Please note that the Partner Cat Pikachu code only works in the Ultra games. These two are treated like any other static encounter in past games, where you get 1 each per save file. That same logic applies to the Battle Bond Greninja. This Greninja is rewarded to you for completing the Sun and Moon demo, where it can then be transferred to a save file of Sun and Moon. It cannot be transferred to a copy of an Ultra game. In the last video, I mistakenly said you could transfer the Pikachu and the Greninja to any Alola game, which is not true. Sorry about that. Finally, our last 2 Pokemon for this section are Zeraora and Marshadow. Again, unfortunately, the only known way to get these 2 mythical Pokemon as of right now is through hacking. As for Pokemon Go, the Mythicals and Ash Greninja are not currently available in the game, and no Pikachus wearing any costumes are allowed to be transferred out either. The next segment is going to be new for this video, and that is Shiny Pokemon. There are a handful of Pokemon whose Shiny forms are not obtainable in the post-bank games. Of course, for all the Pokemon not obtainable on the Switch, obviously their Shiny forms are also not obtainable. For all the non-special Pokemon, Spinda, Watchog, the Elemental Monkeys, and Furfrou, you'll probably want to go with X and Y for the modern-day Shiny odds, as well as having access to the Pokeradar once you beat the game. Shiny Patrat will have to be bred at the daycare, preferably with the Masuda method. All of these Shinies are available in Go as well, but remember that Spinda cannot be transferred to home. Shiny Celebi can be hunted for in the Pokemon Crystal Virtual Console. This one has the pre-Gen 6 odds of being shiny at 1 in 8,192. You can also get Shiny Celebi through the coin case glitch in the Gold and Silver Virtual Consoles if you'd rather skip the hunt. Shiny Celebi was once available in Pokemon Go through special research, but starting the event now is no longer possible. Another one where you may want to check if you have this one sitting around in your game. Shiny Deoxys is a bit more complicated to get your hands on though. The Deoxys at the end of Auras is shiny locked, so in order to hunt for a shiny Deoxys, we'll have to go all the way back to Fire Red and Leaf Green. In these games, there was a distribution event that gave you an item called the Aurora Ticket. With this ticket, you could sail to Birth Island and catch Deoxys. This Deoxys was not shiny locked, so theoretically you could go and hunt for this right now. The only roadblock is getting that ticket. It'll have to be obtained through hacks, glitches, or a flash cart that simulates the distribution in 2004. In Pokemon Go, previous Deoxys raid events have allowed him to be shiny. Likely due to an oversight, Partner Cat Pikachu is actually not shiny locked. This form doesn't look any different from the regular counterpart, but it will have the mark that indicates it's shiny. Shiny Genesect was distributed once at an in-life event in Japan in 2013. Apparently, if you have a Japanese copy of a Gen 5 game, you can use the DNS exploit to receive it. If you don't have a Japanese copy, your options are limited to just hacking one in, or waiting for Genesect raids in Pokemon Go, where he has a chance to be shiny there. Shiny Diancie was only ever legitimately obtainable through a Japanese event, and again in a South Korean one. The only way to get these events now is again through hacking with a modded 3DS, as Shiny Diancie has yet to be introduced into Pokemon Go. As for Victini, Hoopa, Volcanion, Magearna, Marshadow, Zeraora, and Ash Greninja, none of these Pokemon were given shiny distributions on any DS or 3DS games. In fact, with the exception of Zeraora and a Sword and Shield event, none of these Pokemon's shinies have ever been released. However, through the use of Gen 7's QR scanner, you can register Pokédex entries of shinies that have never been officially released. Salted Neos made a video detailing how this works, as well as providing all the QR codes you would want to consider scanning. This video is linked in the description, and I highly recommend all collectors and completionists give it a watch. This method relies on Bank being able to connect to home, so if Bank isn't around anymore, this method will no longer be doable. Next, I'm going to highlight Pokemon who are obtainable in the Switch games, but whose shinies in the mainline games are locked behind Bank. Starting with Mew. Shiny Mew can most easily be obtained via a glitch in the red, blue, and yellow virtual consoles. This glitch is known as the 8F glitch, and I'll leave a link in the description to a video by Austin John Plays. Another way to get a shiny Mew is through Pokemon Emerald. Similar to the Deoxys in Fire Red Leaf Green, the only hurdle to unlocking this event is actually obtaining the Old Sea map that brings you to Faraway Isle. Shiny Mew has been obtainable during events in Pokemon Go, though these have historically been pay to enter. Next up is Jirachi. The Jirachi gift received from the Pokemon Coliseum bonus disc that can be transferred to a copy of Ruby or Sapphire has the potential to be shiny. You get 1 per save file of Ruby or Sapphire, and 1 reset of this hunt takes about 10 minutes. There were also a few shiny Jirachi distributions throughout Gen 6's lifespan. Shiny Jirachi was also available in Pokemon Go for a limited time, but similar to Shiny Mew, required payment to access. The only way to shiny hunt Manaphy is through the Manaphy egg reward at the end of Pokemon Ranger. You get 1 Manaphy egg not per save file, but per copy of Pokemon Ranger. This egg can be transferred to a Gen 4 game where it is guaranteed to be not shiny. You have to trade the egg to a Gen 4 save file with a different trainer ID, where then it has the chance to be shiny. If it hatches and is not shiny, you need to reset so that Manaphy is back in its egg, trade the egg to a different save file with a different trainer ID, and try again. This is a notoriously long shiny hunt that, when optimized with 4 copies of Pokemon Ranger, gets you about 8 Manaphy's per hour. I want to touch briefly on the Void glitch. In the original Diamond and Pearl, it is possible to encounter Darkrai, Shaman, and Arceus through this glitch, and they can be shiny hunted. However, from people's experiences, only Darkrai caught in Diamond using this method can be transferred to future generations. If you're interested, I'll put links in the description to videos by PokeTips and Retire. Retire has put a lot of work into figuring out how the Void glitch works and what it can do, so I highly recommend giving it a watch. Jumping all the way up to Gen 7, we have the Type Null and Poipole lines. Type Null is gifted to you after becoming champion in any of the Alola games, while Poipole is gifted to you after defeating Ultra Necrozma in the Ultra games. These Pokemon can be shiny in Gen 7, while the ones given to you in Sword and Shield are shiny locked. I do want to mention that many shiny hunting methods, like the Dex Nav and SOS chaining, are unique to the 3DS games. You may want to check out if there's a shiny Pokemon that is most easily obtained through a method on the 3DS, in case sometime in the future they can no longer be brought into home. Just something to keep in mind. The next section I want to cover are moves. The Pokemon Home mobile app keeps a list of all 822 moves currently obtainable in the series. It registers them when you deposit a Pokemon that knows that move into Home. So, how many moves from this list returned in the Indigo disc? 1! Since they brought back 2 canon, even though they have totally just ditched other Pokemon signature moves before, they were oh so kind enough to bring back Beak Blast. I'm going to start off this segment with the moves I missed in the last video. Mat Block is a move learned only by Greninja in Gen 6, while Throw also learns it in Gen 7. They both learn it at level 1. This move can be used in Sword and Shield, but it cannot be learned, which may be why I missed it in the last video. Thanks to Robo Ninjasaur for commenting on this. Punishment has a decent distribution and tends to be learned at mid to higher levels. A Mankey from Alola will probably be the easiest to catch here. Punishment can only be learned in Gens 4 through 7. Thanks to Sam Newman and Chroma for catching this. Next, I'm going to talk about event-only moves. As the name implies, these moves are known only by Pokemon from distribution events. These moves can never be taught to Pokemon normally, and once forgotten, cannot be relearned either. The 4 moves on this list were introduced starting in X and Y, so the only way to obtain any of these moves right now, outside of Japan, is going to be through hacking. These moves are Celebrate, Happy Hour, Hold Back, and Hold Hands. The moves themselves don't really do that much, they're really just for collectors and to get in the way of completionists. Celebrate and Happy Hour have been distributed globally to Scarlet and Violet in the past, but again, if you're trying to grab these moves outside of their distribution periods, it's going to be easiest on a 3DS. Thank you to Digimax for reminding me of these moves. Since this next list of 70 moves is essentially the same as the last video, I'll just list them all off and spare the commentary on each one. The first 24 moves on this list are not obtainable in generations 8 and 9, but are in the Let's Go games. Since a lot of people may have skipped out on these games, you may prefer to get them in earlier games instead. These moves are Barrage, Barrier, Bide, Bone Club, Clamp, Comet Punch, Constrict, Dizzy Punch, Double Slap, Dragon Rage, Egg Bomb, Hyper Fang, Jump Kick, Karate Chop, Meditate, Mirror Move, Psy Wave, Rage, Razor Wind, Rolling Kick, Sharpen, Sonic Boom, Spike Cannon, and Twin Needle. These next 46 moves are not obtainable on any Switch games at the moment and must be transferred in from Bank to register them for completion. They are Assist, Bestow, Camouflage, Captivate, Chip Away, Embargo, Feign Attack, Flame Burst, Foresight, Frustration, Grass Whistle, Heal Block, Heal Order, Heart Stamp, Ion Deluge, Lucky Chant, Magnet Bomb, Magnitude, Me First, Miracle Eye, Mirror Shot, Mud Sport, Natural Gift, Needle Arm, Nightmare, Odor Sleuth, Powder, Pursuit, Refresh, Return, Rototiller, Secret Power, Signal Beam, Sky Drop, Sky Uppercut, Smelling Salts, Snatch, Spiderweb, Spotlight, Steamroller, Synchro Noise, Telekinesis, Trump Card, Wake Up Slap, Water Sport, and Ring Out. I'm also going to make a new segment here for signature moves tied to mythical Pokemon that need to be transferred in. Last time I highlighted Deoxys' Psycho Boost for being learnable in BDSP, but still being locked behind Bank since you need to transfer in a Deoxys in order to learn the move and register it. Silly old me forgot that this applies to almost every mythical Pokemon behind Bank, so here they are. Psycho Boost for Deoxys, and the Purified Shadow Lugia from XD Gale of Darkness, Searing Shot and V-Create for Victini. V-Create used to be an event-only move, but can now be taught to Victini naturally in Sword and Shield. Technoblast for Genesect, Diamond Storm for Diancie, Hyperspace Hole for Hoopa Confined, Hyperspace Fury for Hoopa Unbound, Steam Eruption for Volcanion, Lure Cannon for Magearna, Plasma Fist for Zeraora, and Spectral Thief for Marshadow. So while all these moves can be taught to these Pokemon in Switch games, unless you already had them in home, you'll need to transfer them up from a 3DS system. It is also very important to note that Mythicals from Pokemon Go cannot be transferred to a mainline game until you put a non-Go version of the Mythical into that file. Nobody really knows why this barrier exists, but it does. So be careful, because if you transfer your Mythical from Go and it doesn't know its signature move, you will have no way of teaching it that move without already having one from a mainline game, at which point you would probably just want to keep your Mythical in Go anyway. Here are also some other things to note regarding moves. Some past distributions gave away Pokemon who knew moves that they can't normally learn, and some Pokemon lost the ability to learn certain moves past certain generations. There are too many examples of this to list them all quickly in this video, so if this is something that interests you, just keep this in mind. Something else to keep in mind is that the move reminder at the top of Mount Lanakila in the Alola games can actually teach Pokemon moves that they would normally learn at later levels early in exchange for a heart scale. This option can save you a lot of time grinding levels if you have extra heart scales, and you can also farm Wild Love Disc in these games who have a 50% chance to be holding one. Thanks to Joey Tabora for letting me know about this. And finally, here's a spreadsheet I whipped up of the Pokemon and move combinations I would recommend if you wanted to register any of these moves. If you exclude the Mythicals, all the other 70 moves can be obtained with one copy of any Alola game, though I did include XY and Ores for a couple moves that are a lot faster to obtain in those games. Feel free to screenshot, pause the video, whatever you gotta do. This info is also linked in the description. I am by no means a master at Excel, so feel free to download the file and modify it as you see fit. Next up are the abilities. Thanks to the DLC for Scarlet, Violet, Sword, and Shield, all the Alolan form signature abilities are readily available on the Switch without the need of the Let's Go games. I completely forgot about the Diglett hunt in the Isle of Armor rewarding you with Alolan Raichu and Alolan Meowth. Thank you to Adimon and Thorn QB for reminding me of this. There are now just 3 unique abilities you'll want to grab: Victini's Victory Star, Ash Greninja's Battle Bond, and Magearna's Soul Heart. These are all Pokemon that have already been covered earlier in the video, and these are also the only possible abilities that these special Pokemon can have. The final new section I'm going to add to this video is other miscellaneous things to consider. The first miscellaneous thing to consider, while the focus of this video was about using Pokemon Bank to get what you needed onto Home and the Switch, it is important to note that Bank also serves as the bridge that connects generations 5, 6, and 7. If Bank shuts down, it will no longer be possible to move Pokemon out of generations 5 or 6. Also, you will no longer be able to complete the National Dex in the Alola games. These games require transfers from at least Generation 6 to collect everything, and even though the Alola games don't actually have a National Dex mode in the Pokédex, it is something to consider if you wanted to, say, make a Living Dex in Sun and Moon. Second miscellaneous thing to consider is ball combinations. While most Pokemon can be obtained on the Switch now, there are still some ball combinations that are locked behind bank. For example, while Bidoof can be caught in BDSP, since there are no Apricorn balls in these games, outside of limited time events, if I wanted a Bidoof in a Moon Ball, I would have to go back to Heart Gold and Soul Silver to do so, as these were the last games where the Moon Ball and Bidoof were both freely attainable. Obviously, I can't list every permutation of ball and Pokemon combo here, so this is just another thing to think about going forward. Third miscellaneous thing to consider, ribbons. The vast majority of ribbons that Pokemon can earn are in generations 3 through 7. Something like the Ribbon Master Challenge, where you try to get every ribbon possible on a single Pokemon, relies on Pokemon Bank to stay up in order to see that challenge to the end. If you're interested in learning more about this challenge, I highly recommend the video SirToastyToes made on the subject, link in the description. Fourth miscellaneous thing to consider, the Pokemon Home Challenges. I mentioned these last time, but the Home mobile app has a list of challenges for you to complete and rewards you with stickers for each one you finish. Some of these challenges require transferring in specific Pokemon from older games, and these are easy enough to check out for yourself on the mobile app if this interests you. And that should cover just about everything still stuck behind Pokemon Bank. A huge thanks to everyone that commented on things I missed in the last video. With their help, I'm hoping we were able to gather all the major things that are still stuck behind Bank. If there is anything else that comes up, I'll be sure to have a pinned comment down below with any other corrections for this video. If rumors are to be believed, there might be Gen 5 remakes this year. I doubt those games would bring back enough to warrant another update video, probably just Patrat and the Monkeys, maybe Victinian Genesect events, but who knows. Quick reminder that there is a link in the description to a spreadsheet for this video, but for now, that's really all I gotta say. Okay, bye!